Hello and welcome to the MAN Fleet Management training video for ManTrack, also known as Track and Trace. You will hopefully see on your screen our web portal, which is basically accessible via your browser. If you just go to the URL manfleetmanagement.co.uk, you should see the screen. And from here, you can get quite a lot of information about what we do in MAN Fleet Management in terms of downloading brochures. You can view case studies, videos, etc. But the main purpose today is to train you how to use a track-in facility. So we're actually going to log in using this login button here into that facility. So on pressing that button, we get access to the various login options. You will see top left, we've got ManCheck, which is actually for your dealer to be able to help look after your vehicle in terms of all the health alerts and health codes, etc. But the one we're going to log into today is the second option, which is MAN EcoStyle, which is the reporting, and ManTrack, which is the tracking. So by clicking into that option and selecting a customer name, because obviously all the customer data is secure, I'm actually going to use Bibby's data today. So I see that and get into customer Bibby distribution. I will log on with my user ID and password. And up should come a view of the Bibby map. Okay. So as you can see, I'm actually in a group called Blenheim. So this is not by no means all of the Bibby vehicles, but you can see here that I've filtered that down to Blenheim. If I check that off and reapply, it will actually show me all of the Bibby vehicles, of which there are well over 1,000. But just to keep it manageable, I'll reselect Blenheim. So as you can see, it will remember how you leave the system. So if you're missing any vehicles, please make sure you haven't checked any groups or any vehicle states, and maybe you're only looking at moving vehicles or idling vehicles, etc. when you go back in. So I'm now looking at the Bibby map for the Blenheim depot, which is 39 vehicles, as you can see. You will see that some of the vehicles are showing as a vehicle icon in red, and if they're moving, they've got a direction of travel icon, which shows the direction in which they're moving. Other vehicles are shown in what we call clusters. This would indicate that in this case, for example, there are 9 vehicles very closely located in that area, and to make the map present in a much nicer fashion, we can use clustering. You can have different views of maps, so we default the road map view, but you can also see things like grayscale views or terrain views, satellite views, for example. Satellite view is very useful if you were, for example, going to do some geofencing. So if you zoom in, you can see things like buildings and fields and things like that. You can supplement that with what we call the hybrid view, which will actually give you the road markings as well, overlaid over that. So that's quite a useful view. But for the purposes of this demonstration, we'll continue in the default road map view. As you can see, we can zoom in and out via these icons here. So if I click back until we see a vehicle in play, I can select any of these vehicles. If I click on a vehicle, I can see, for example, that this particular vehicle is registration number DC65WVU. I can see its current state. I can see the speed it's traveling at the moment, 10.9 miles an hour heading northwest. I can see the road it's on when we last made contact, which was less than a minute ago with that vehicle. And I can also see the driver name. Now, I'll show you later how you would maintain driver names so that you can get the name of the driver, not just the tacho card number. But a useful feature here as well is the working time directive hours, or what we call the work, rest and play hours. We can see that this particular driver has been on shift for 4 hours and 54 minutes. His current state is driving for the last 1 hour and 46 minutes. But on his shift today, he's actually been driving a total of 3 hours and 2 minutes, resting for 10 minutes, and he's been doing other work for 1 hour and 43. So quite a useful facility there. If we wanted to see where he's been, we can do a playback on the vehicle. If we want to track that vehicle and make sure that, as he moves, the map moves with him, we can put the crosshairs on that vehicle and track it. I'm just going to do a playback now just to show you what that looks like. So if I click playback, it will take the last 8 hours of activity for that vehicle. So that's what we see here. That's the default. You can change that default to whatever date and time you want, but we'll stick with the 8 hours for now. And what we also see down below are what we call the events. So we can see where he's been in the last 8 hours in terms of a playback, snail trail if you like. We also have a list of events here on the left hand side, and those events are shown as bubbles on the playback, which are also highlighted in terms of date, time and location on the grid below. So you can filter for the events you want to see, etc. Okay, if I close the playback view and I close that, we can see that we've also got a number of buttons here on the right hand side. The top one is the Geofence Management button, so if I was to click that, it gives me access to be able to maintain different types of geofences. I'm not going to do that today, it's quite specialised. You might actually want to talk to your account manager if you want to do some of that. We can go into full screen mode. That's just a toggle button, so I can click back into regular mode by just toggling again. We can see if anything is being tracked with the crosshairs, which is not at the moment. We can do things like proximity searches, find nearest vehicle. So let's actually try the find nearest vehicle, for example. If I click on that, what it does, it gives me a marker, which I can move wherever I want it to. So let's say, for argument's sake, I need to pick up a load in Derby. I've got a new job come in. I want to find a vehicle that's near there. I can actually search in a radius of 1 mile, 5 miles, 10 miles, etc. and find all the vehicles that are within that radius. So let's go with 10 miles and search. Okay, as you can see, nothing's come up there. Let's extend that to 25 miles and search. And you can see now that we've just got one vehicle that's within that location. If I make it 50 miles, for example, you would see that it comes up with lots of vehicles that are within that radial search. So the nearest vehicle it's saying is OW16RZV, which is 15.4 miles away. If I wanted to select that vehicle to do this job, you will see that it's giving me a little bit of a planning route. So it's saying that the guy is 15.4 miles away as the crow flies, which is actually 24.1 miles of driving. It's going to take him 47 miles to get there. And as you can see, it's given us a nice little route in terms of the roads, the best road to take to get to that location. That's quite a nice little feature. So if we send that back, we've also got we can plan routes. We've also got a thing called layer information. So if I go into the layer information, you can see that I've got clustering on at the minute. So I could switch that off, which would show the vehicles. It can get a bit messy if you've got lots of vehicles, so I'll probably recommend that you leave clustering on. We can also show vehicle name. So again, if you want the registration number showing under the vehicles, you can switch that on or off as is your preference. And if you want to see traffic views and site and depot names, etc., you can switch those off or on. So feel free to play with layers as well. Now, I did mention that you could actually maintain driver names, which is really useful if you want to see who's driving a particular vehicle. So in order to do that, you would go into the admin section. And from there, you would go into driver maintenance. This is the area where you can organize and manage your drivers. Now, typically, when new drivers start with an organization and they enter their TACO card into the vehicle, the driver name will come through on reports and tracking as a DB card number. So if I just key DB to highlight which drivers we've got, so you can see that these are all new drivers effectively within the organization that have not yet been allocated a name on the system. So if I was to just hover over one of those drivers and hit enter, and then onto the driver name again and hit enter again, you can see that this gives me a nice little dialog box where I could enter the driver name. Let's imagine this guy's name was John Smith. I could key John Smith in there, hit update, and that would recognize that driver forevermore on the tracking system or on the reports as John Smith rather than his DB card number. Okay, hope that was useful. Didn't want to make it too long, so it didn't take too much of your time. If you need any more information about the tracking system, please feel free to contact your salesman or your MAN Fleet Management account manager, and we'll get someone out to you to train you accordingly. As I say, hope you found that useful, and goodbye.